All right. Like I said, I'm happy to be here this Saturday morning, excited to be a part of the community and giving back. My name is Dr. Sexton, and today I wanted to talk a little bit to you all about how cognition, the power of thinking, creativity, can be used in combination with music and art to support your mental health. So let me see, where did I put my clicker? All right, so I want to just give a quick introduction about who I am, right? A little bit of background about me. That's a little too fast. All right, so giving you an overview of today, I'm hoping we can get through everything. This is my intro on me. We're gonna talk a little bit about cognitive psychology, right? So I don't know if you all have heard of it, but you're gonna know a little bit about it today before I leave. And then also some neuroscience. I like to have hands-on activities, so I hope you guys are prepared to volunteer, maybe you'll gain a prize, engage with me here, and then talk a little bit about what you can do as a psychologist, all right? All right, so who am I? Like I said, my name is Dr. Melanie Sexton. You can just call me Dr. Mel. I was actually raised in Queens, New York, and raised in Tampa. So like a lot of you all, didn't really know about psychology, didn't really know much about higher education. I am a first-generation American, so my parents actually were born and raised in Jamaica. They migrated over to America when they were in their teens. I'm also a first-generation college student, which means I was the first in my family to go and get a college degree. So kind of paving the pathway for just, a lot of members in my family. I don't know if I'm... There we go. All right, so a little bit about my academic background. How many of you have heard of UCF? I would think so, right? Okay. So I actually got my bachelor's degree, and because I was a little bit of a try-hard, I actually got 2. So I have both a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I have a bachelor's degree in political science. Does anybody know what political science is? Yeah, what do you think it is? You've just heard of it? Do you know what it is? You've heard of it? Anybody want to take a guess? So it's when you're like studying politics and stuff, legal studies, and a lot of times people get that degree because they're thinking about going to law school, which I actually was. I had planned to go to law school. So most of my high school career, for most of my college, about half of my college career, I thought I was going to be an attorney, all right? I actually worked as a paralegal in a law office for 3 years to help pay for some of my funding while I was at UCF. In my junior year, I had a mentor contact me and said, hey, do you want to do a psychology research project? I said yes, because I love new opportunities. And away I went. I never looked back, right? Kind of realized law school wasn't for me. I love research, I love working with people, I love doing memory studies. That's actually what my specialty is. You like memory studies? Perfect. We're gonna do a memory study here today, okay? So while I was at UCF, I dove into this concept called false memory, where you remember things that never actually happened. You may not realize you do this, but we do this all the time, right? You remember things that didn't happen, or you remember things differently from the way they happened. So I did a whole project, a thesis on that, loved it so much, I decided to go for my graduate degree. And so I went to Vanderbilt University, Nashville, Tennessee. If you guys know where that is, it's middle of Tennessee, kind of north, but we consider it the south. So I went to Vanderbilt and I spent 6 years working on my doctorate. While I was at Vandy though, I moved a little bit beyond just cognitive psychology and I did cognitive neuroscience. All right, so what is neuroscience? Okay, yeah, do you want to guess? Science of the brain, yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys see all these brains up here, right? You're probably wondering what we're going to do with them, right? So yeah, cognitive neuroscience is the study of the brain and the mechanisms and what helps us to think. So I do study the brain. I actually studied brain waves. If you've ever seen a movie or a picture of someone with those sticky stuff on their head and you see the wiggly lines coming out, that's what I did. All right, so I studied electroencephalography. I was interested in brain waves. I studied how images can be projected from the brain, what it means when you're thinking. So yes, I'm a little bit of both the cognitive psychology, but also the neuroscientist. So really just dabbling in a bunch of things as I'm figuring out who I am. All right, after I graduated from Vanderbilt, I actually ended up working at Miami-Dade College as an academic advisor. I wanted to make sure I was kind of giving back. So I do a lot of research, but I also wanted to make sure I was meeting with my community, meeting with students who maybe weren't as familiar with higher education and teaching them the ropes, you know, helping them figure out what careers can I do. So I worked with first and second years there. I also did it at Vanderbilt for a couple of years. So again, I like to dabble, right? All right, currently, I am, let's see if this will work. I don't know if the clicker died on me. Oh, there we go. All right, so currently I'm a professor of psychology at Valencia College. I have been there for 10 years, and I teach a slew of different courses. I am the only cognitive neuroscientist professor there. This is actually me at Brain Camp holding a human brain. Yes. So I teach general psychology, I teach developmental psychology, I teach cognitive, community psychology, and research methods, right? So I love working with students. I love working with kids your age too. Some of you may notice my daughter's over here. She's here to help me, but she's used to this talk because I talk at her school all the time as well. So again, this is a passion of mine. And then I like to make sure that I'm teaching the next generation about cognitive psychology and neuroscience techniques. So that's really what I want to dive into with you all today, talking about how we can use this stuff to our benefit, all right? Okay, so just personally, this is my husband. He became an attorney, right? Okay, and then, I don't know if I'm just not standing the right. There we go. Here are my two kids. So my son Jordan is 13 and my daughter Zoe is 10. All right, so try to have a personal life outside of the professional as well. I don't know why it won't click. It doesn't like me. There we go. All right. If you guys don't like kids, maybe you like pets, right? So yes, I have a corgi and a gray tabby cat. This is Miles. This is Pete. Yes, they are both named after Spider-Man, right? And then, all right, so enough about me. Perfect. All right. So as I said, I wanted to just give a quick intro just so you know who is talking at you, talking with you. But we're going to dive into cognitive psychology today, right? So trying to understand your mind. All right. So my question to the audience, all right, is your mental health as important as your physical health? Okay. Yeah, you keep volunteering. What do you got to say? Why is your mental health as important as physical health? They both contribute to your personality, absolutely. Who else? Anybody else? You want to go again? Yeah.
So, if you get hurt too badly, you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
And then if mental health is important because...
It's the equal same thing. This is same response for both, right? So what he said was, if you get hurt really badly, okay, say that you, I don't know, like you have an appendix burst, right? You need to seek help. It's an organ, right? It's an organ. If it bursts, it's not good. So if you have an appendix burst and you don't seek help, you're not going to survive, right? Does the same apply to if you're having a mental struggle? Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah. What else do you want to contribute? Right, okay? How do you express yourself if you're struggling with your own feelings? All right, and so I will say in recent years, we are starting to see people pay more attention to their mental health. Your generation especially, right? And I love that because I can tell you, like my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, they don't acknowledge their mental health. They don't talk about it, okay? If they're sad, they're angry, they just kind of sweep it under the rug. We don't really talk about that. And studies have found that's not healthy. All right, that creates stress, that creates emotional burdens, and you carry that with you. Bad mental health can lead to bad physical health. All right, so that's why we say it is really important that we try to focus on both. If you have a broken leg, you don't ignore it. You go to a doctor. All right, so if you have a broken brain, you're struggling with something mentally, psychologically, you have to seek help. Okay. All right, so my field of study is cognitive psychology. And if you haven't heard of that, that means we study cognition. We look at how we think, how we perceive information, how we understand the world. As I mentioned, my specialty is memory. So I look at how we learn and remember things, right? How do we form memories? How do we retrieve information from long-term memory? We also look at attention. We look at language. We look at decision making. So cognitive psychology, we're looking at a lot of just those higher thought processes, right? Things that I think we oftentimes take for granted. And tying it back to mental health, we study this by looking at attention. Right? If you are dealing with a problem, your attention is focused on the problem. You're not able to make other decisions. You can't socialize with your friends. You're too hyper-focused on something that is bothering you. Your memory, okay? If something traumatic happens to you, that's gonna stand out. That's gonna take over everything that you do. So your memory is gonna be highlighted. You're gonna hyper-focus on that. If you guys have heard of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, right? That's where you have these intrusive thoughts, right? Even though you don't necessarily want them. Your thought patterns are going to be interrupted. If we have a patient with depression, everything they do, everyone they speak to is through that lens of depression. All right, so their best friend could say something to them and they don't hear it right because they're thinking about it from a depressed mind. So it changes even the way you think. So if you've heard of anxiety, does anybody in here get anxious? Get anxiety? Yeah. All right, we see a lot of anxiety, especially in school-age kids. That's on the rise. Even my adults, right? You have a lot just to be worried about. And so anxiety can build up. That creates stress, depression, looking at negative memories. And then we call rumination, right? Rumination is where you just repeat, and you get stuck on a line of thinking, on a thought, on a memory. All right, so cognitive psychology, we really try to understand this so we can help people to improve their mental health. All right. So how many of you have seen an MRI before? Okay, have any of you had an MRI? You have? Okay, so what happens here in this magnet? Well, let me give somebody else a chance. Yeah, what happens here in the magnet? Yes, it does. It scans your brain and your body. Yeah, what else?
Looking at the picture, I can see it shows.
The differences, right? Yeah, you can see the differences. And so most of us, if you've had an MRI, maybe you had to get your back or your knee scanned, that is just going to show a scan of the anatomy. Right? It's just going to show a picture. What we do in cognitive psychology and neuroscience is we do fMRI. So that stands for functional magnetic resonance imaging. All right? The F meaning that I want to see what happens in those areas when you are doing a task. All right? So if you're trying to remember something and I'm scanning your brain, it's going to show me what areas are lighting up. All right. If you are trying to make a decision, it's going to show me what areas are lighting up. Yeah.
How does that work?
So I can get into the science of it. The magnet shifts your hydrogen atoms and sends a pulse out, right? And then it takes it in real time, real quick time, where that energy pulse is coming from.
How do you just like ask the person questions what they're doing?
Yeah, so they lay in the machine and they usually have a microphone in the machine that a scientist is talking to them, or there's a screen in the magnet that they're looking at and making decisions. Okay, so really cool technique. It's a very popular technique. This image, I'm not going to get into the details of this particular study, but what it's highlighting here is when a person who is neurotypical, right, meaning that they don't show any signs of a disorder, you can see that their brain is much more active compared to a patient who is depressed, someone who is suffering from depression. And what we know from our depression patients is that their brain tends to be shut down. Right? They have trouble making decisions, they don't want to socialize, they have trouble having emotions, they become apathetic. all right? And so through the use of MRI, fMRI, we actually can start to see physical, anatomical differences. And this is how we can get therapy to help this person, right? Say, yeah, there's something going on in your brain that is causing you to have these feelings, these behaviors. So again, just another way that we use cognitive psychology. There we go, okay. So I wanted to go over just some of the basic parts of neuroscience. How many of you have heard of a neuron? I don't know if you've covered that in class. Oh my, that's impressive. Okay, so you all know that a neuron is like a brain cell, right? Perfect, you guys are amazing. Okay, so a neuron is a brain cell. I'm not gonna have you guys go over all of the details here, but the neurons are the building blocks for our brain, okay? And so the neurons, we have trillions of them in our brain. And when they get together, they communicate, they talk, they send messages, all right? So how many of you have heard of gray matter and white matter in the brain? Less, okay. So that's parts of a neuron. The gray and the white matter are parts of a neuron. The gray matter, not shown here in this picture in the greatest, but it's basically the yellow part. That is the pure part of the neuron. The white matter is what is created here by this oligodendrocyte, what we call a glial cell, all right? It's shown in like this blue-green, okay? That's what creates what we call myelin. And myelin is this fatty protein tissue that wraps around an axon to help speed up signals. All right, so the cells have, they have basic just the cells with just the yellow part. And as you get older, you start to develop that fatty protein to help you think faster. Okay?
How does that fatty protein help you think faster?
Because it acts like a slip and slide. Right? That protein acts like a slip and slide. And so how many of you would be shocked to learn that babies have more neurons than you? Yeah. Okay? Now most of us would consider ourselves smarter than a baby, right? But here's what's happening. Here's why we are more functional, more smarter than a baby. It's because you have more white matter. You have more of that fatty protein. That helps you to think better, okay? So through experience, through learning, through going about your life, you get better at having that protein wrapped around your axon. Babies just have a bunch of naked neurons kind of running around and they're not talking to each other, all right? Yeah. Yes, so he's asking, is it the reason babies have more neurons so they can learn? Absolutely. And then the ones that we don't use, anybody know what happens to the neurons we don't use? They die off. They fade away, all right? I want to do a demo. Can I get 2 volunteers? Let's see, I got 2. I'm going to pick you, all right? And then let's pick you. All right, come here. All right. So here's how neurons work, all right? Here's how neurons work. We're all just kind of floating in space, right? We're wandering around. I decide I want to share a message with one of my friends, right? Or at least a fellow neuron. Let's see if they're my friend, okay? So I'm going to throw you this, but you drop it. Okay, so I'm going to try it again. I want to throw you this, but you drop it. Man, she doesn't want to play ball with me, okay. I throw this to you, you hold on to it, okay? Matter of fact, you pass it back to me, all right? I get another message, I pass it to you, you hold on to it, you pass it back. Okay, every time I get this little message, who am I going to play with? The one who's connecting. And what happens to our friend who just kept dropping the ball? She disappears. You disappear. All right, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for being a wonderful volunteer. But yes, and so what starts to happen, we form connections, right? I'm like, hey, I got this message. You want to play? You're like, yes, but I want to loop in my friend. Come on up. All right, and then you pass the ball to her. Pass the ball to me. And we have a neural network. okay, we have a neural network. So anytime I want to send a signal, maybe it's a word I've learned, it's an activity I've learned how to play a note, right? I'm going to go here because I know you guys will send the signal, okay? Great job. You guys, you can keep that. You can grab one, keep it. All right, perfect. Okay, so neurons are really important in the brain because they show us how we learn, they show us our experience, and again, it's important for that efficient communication. All right, so this is an image of a brain, right? Hopefully you guys know it. This brain is facing this way, okay? So you have your frontal lobe, your parietal lobe, your occipital lobe, and your temporal lobe, okay? So we're gonna orient ourselves. Can everybody point to their frontal lobe? It's the top front, okay? This right here is where you do your highest level of decision making, all right? So if you are making a really complicated decision, you're doing math, you're working on a science problem, you're reading for the first time, you are using your frontal lobe, okay? Let's go to the parietal, that's the top rear, touch right back here, okay? The parietal codes for your touch, your taste, your balance. Have you ever felt off balance? Yes. Okay, that's in your parietal lobe, it's coding for that. If you run a fever, your parietal lobe is coding for that. If you feel overheated, your parietal lobe is coding for that, all right? Occipital lobe, right here, back, okay? Have any of you ever hit your head, the back of your head? Yes. What happens? Huh?
I hit it with the wall.
You hit it with the wall. Okay, what happens if you hit the back? You ever notice you see stars? It goes black or white. So what do you think is processed back there? Eyesight. Vision. Yeah, your occipital lobe, that's where your optical cortex is. All right? Yeah, question.
Brain developed like that.
That's a good, why did it develop like that? Because it does feed forward and backward processing. So it has this very complicated, basically loop system that sends information to the back, but it also then sends it forward immediately, right? I think a lot of our sensitive areas are in the back of our head, and you just have to be careful with that. Yeah, because even our hindbrain, which I only partially show here, that is our survival area. So yeah, you have to be very careful with the back of your head. All right, yeah. Ooh, that's a hard question. The most important part of your brain. If I had to pick, I'm gonna say the medulla oblongata, which I know, it's fancy. It's a hindbrain area right kind of between your ears, but it controls your heartbeat, your swallowing, and your breathing. So if you damage that, not good. All right, not good. Yeah, last question, let me go on. Yeah, it's on the brainstem. It's right above the brainstem, right? One more. Well, we kind of need all of the brain. That's the thing. We don't necessarily want to cut it out, right? All right, so the temporal lobe, okay, do you know where your temples are? Okay, easy to remember. Temporal lobe codes for hearing, sound, right? How many of you in here play music? Okay, I thought so. I heard I had some band people in here. We play instruments? Okay, how long have you played? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? All right, you want to keep that up, all right? Listen up, because my musicians are better at certain cognitive psychology tasks, okay? Being able to play music can help you learn languages, help you to read, help you to orient in space. All right, so it actually helps you build up a skill. In fact, your temporal lobe, for those of you who play music, you have more white matter. Remember we talked about that slippery thing that helps you to communicate? You have more of it than someone who doesn't play music. So anytime you are gaining a skill, right, you're developing more white matter, that myelin sheath, okay? All right, let's keep going. No, I'm terrible at this thing. Okay, taking a little side tangent, how many of you heard of Alzheimer's disease? All right, so as a memory psychologist, I'm fascinated by this. I'm trying to study it, figuring out what's happening. Remember that white matter we talked about? It disappears, in Alzheimer's disease, right? So this is why we see thinking is a little bit slow. We also see gray matter start to disappear. So we're seeing shrinkage in the brain, okay? If you've ever seen someone, a scan of their fMRI, if they have Alzheimer's, you see the brain actually has holes, right? It's losing its fold, it's losing its volume. Our neurons, right, our healthy neurons, they are no longer healthy, okay? So remember how we had our little network here who was playing ball, okay? In Alzheimer's, they're tangled up. Imagine that you're holding the arm of a friend. Are you going to be able to play ball if you're holding the arm of a friend? No. All right? And so in Alzheimer's, we start to see neurofibrillary tangles. We see plaque starting to build up. And part of the job of the brain is to get rid of that because it's not helpful. All right? So just kind of saying why it's important that we take care of our brains, because this is degenerative. All right? This can be degenerative. All right. All right, how many of you in here speak 2 languages? Love it. Okay, so you are a fascinating study. Did you know that being bilingual means that you have like an extra set of brain areas dedicated to language? Yeah, pat yourself on the back. That's actually pretty awesome. Okay, that's pretty awesome. So bilingual research is now starting to become more popular. We're actually studying people who speak 2 or more languages because we're learning their cognitive pathways are different than monolinguals, okay? Just to show you some of these different areas. You guys remember our frontal lobe? Right here in the front? Okay, in the back of the frontal lobe, we have this area known as Broca's area. Broca's area helps you to speak, right? It produces speech. So if you damage Broca's area, what happens? You can't speak, all right? In your temporal lobe, what did I say you do with your temporal lobe? Here, there's an area called Wernicke's area. If you damage Wernicke's area, you do not understand language. You can't comprehend it. You speak fine, but you speak gibberish. All right, you speak gibberish. And so what we see happening to patients who have Broca's or Wernicke's aphasia, they struggle with language. Does this happen to our bilinguals? Could? It's a trick question, right? Yes and no. Yes and no. What we see happening is that they oftentimes lose one language, but they have a backup. Okay? Now, whether that's your native language or your second learned language, we don't know. It's unpredictable. But we do see with these aphasias that you oftentimes have a backup language. So again, keep learning, maintain your languages, because you create different neural pathways for those. So if one pathway is damaged, you can tap into your second one as a way to still communicate. All right, so again, very cool to be bilingual. Very, very awesome. All right, no questions. I'm going to move forward. Okay, so is anybody in here an artist? You like to draw, paint, create? Awesome. I'm a terrible artist, so this is not a skill that I have. But why? Who here is an artist? You're an artist? Okay. Okay. Why do you like art? What do you do? Are you a painter, a drawer? You like to draw? Why?
Because it helps you to communicate with other stuff.
Okay, she says it helps her to communicate. All right, is your hand up? Yeah? Why do you like art? Why do you like to do art?
Well, my first reason it feels like it just makes me more like calm down.
Calm down?
And then the other one makes me express myself.
I mean, you guys could give this presentation. You're awesome, yes. So artists use art as a way to communicate, to express themselves. Yeah?
I like to paint.
You like to paint? What do you like to paint?
It calms me down.
It calms me down. Look at this. You guys are already tapping into ways that you can help yourself. If you're stressed, do you go and color? You paint? You maybe mold something? Yeah.
I like to paint because, for example, when I'm stressed or mad, I grab a paper and start drawing.
And it helps you calm down, right? So she says when she's stressed, when she's mad, she grabs paper and it calms her down. All right? Yeah, what else?
I paint to represent what I see.
You paint to represent what I see. All of these are amazing reasons why everybody should have some sort of outlet. All right, so yeah, art is a fun way to do it. You can also do this through music, through journaling, all right? And so your brain likes it when you have this creative outlet, all right? When you're able to find a way to deal with those negative emotions, it helps to regulate some of those feelings you're having. And you guys already kind of talked about pretty much everything up here, right? So art helps with emotional expression. I'm so angry, I don't know how to express it, so I'm gonna draw it. I'm gonna paint it. It reduces stress. It actually can help you to figure out a problem. If you're like struggling to think of like a solution, putting it in an artistic way can help you to focus through that cognitive thinking. Mindfulness, right? Some people use it as a way of meditation, right? To look inward on themselves. And so even if you're not a good drawer, like a good artist, like I'm terrible at it, or painting, I journal. Right? If you like to sing, this is another way to tap into that. And dancing. Any dancers in the house? No dancers? Couple? Just dance for fun. It doesn't have to be professional. All right? Sometimes silly dancing. Just a way to kind of get those emotions out. All right? Get moving. It actually helps you to release some stress. All righty. We're going to do an activity. Oh no. Okay, come on, you're gonna do an activity. So we're gonna see if this works, all right? See if my clicking works. All right, my daughter Zoe's gonna help me. I'm gonna pass out some note cards and a pen. All right, so let me get this set up. All right, Zoe. So pass that out and I'll pass out some pens, okay? All right, so I'm just gonna say take one, pass it. If there's extra, that's okay. Just take it and pass it. Yeah, thank you. All right, take and pass. Make sure everybody gets. Take one and pass it down. Hey guys, pass it down. Make sure everybody gets one. It's all blue. You do not have one? Yeah, you can keep them. Yes. Need one more cards? Okay, Zoe, there need some cards over here, okay? They're missing. Okay? And over here too. Okay, we will make sure everybody gets, don't worry.
I need
a pen? Take and pass. You guys need note cards? Zoe, note cards, please. You're not handing out in stack enough, big enough. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I remember learning that at some point there was...
Hold on, let me get to your question afterward, okay? There you go. Are you guys participating?
I will.
Thank you. Zoe, don't forget back here. Okay, yeah. Participating? No, I'm gonna leave a couple here in case they change their mind. All right, who needs a pen? Pen here, I got you. And if you need a note card, raise your hand so Zoe can get to you as well. Who also needed a pen? You, okay. You have extra? All right, thank you. Yes.
I get light blue.
Here. There you go, okay? Thank you. Alrighty. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's see if this works, okay? So make sure your pen works. Everybody have an index card. All right, I am going to play a song while you look at a list of words. All right, thank you. Okay, you are going to do your best to remember as many of those words as possible. All right, so let me get the music going, see if this works. Okay, that's it. Well, they'll just have to share. I'm hoping this isn't too loud. Can you guys hear that? Okay. You're gonna look at these words and remember. What do you need? Pen? A card? Take the red thing off. He says his pen doesn't work here. Okay. All right, does everybody have a pen? So you have to take this off. Okay, yeah. All right. Listen, no talking, otherwise you're going to make it harder on yourselves. All right? So I'm going to show you this list of words, and you have about a minute to remember as many as possible. Can you do that? Okay. Huh? No, you're not supposed to write them. It's a memory test. Okay? Don't write. You're just memorizing. So put your pens down. Put your pens down. Here we go. Don't write. Just remember. Just remember. Write down as many as you can. Thank you.
Can I?
Yeah, sure. You can do it. Write down as many as you can. Now, I saw some of you guys taking photos. You don't. That's cheating. Doesn't count. Okay? How do we do? Good? Okay. Oh, this is off. Okay. How many words did you guys get legitimately? 5, 6, 6. Okay, that's good. Okay, you guys did really good. You have good memories. Excellent. Now let's see if they're correct. Let's see if they're correct. Are we good? All right, quiet down. Quiet down. We're going to do another example. All right, we're going to do another example. Okay. So put the pens down. Put the pens down. Flip over your paper or put a line down the middle if you want to do it on the same side. Okay, we're going to do another example. Let me get this one ready. Okay, you can come up here and look. Yeah. All right, write it down. Write down what you can remember. How'd you do that time? Better? No? Worse? Worse? Okay. So even if you did worse, let me ask you all, which one felt better? Second one. Oh, okay. Why? Some of you were jamming on the first one. That's okay. All right? But what happened with the second one? It was what? It was better. It was calmer, more relaxing, okay? So what does that tell you about how your memory works in studying? Yeah.
I just made a story with the words. And
that works. That's another technique. Yeah.
The music changed. That's why it's easier.
The music changed. That's why it's easier. Yeah. Listen, I can't hear her question.
The music, on the first one, it was all fast.
It was fast.
And you walked the first one.
Yeah. You do not feel as rushed, right? Yeah. All right. So what do you guys think about the music and your cognition? Do you think it actually matters? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So here, well, I did the questions. I'm going to skip over the questions. All right. How many of you use music when you study? Okay. What kind of music are you using? Rock? Fiesta, I'm here, crazy. What else? What do you use? Classic? Huh? Any kind of music. Okay, what do you use? You don't study? Okay, what else? You use classical? What do you use? Huh? Okay. Lo-fi? Yeah, us educators, we love lo-fi. All right, we love a good lo-fi. All right, so just to kind of give you examples of how music can be used. All right, if you haven't figured this out already, you can use music to help regulate your mood. All right, you guys were jamming when I had that first one. Not so much studying or looking at the words, that's okay. But if you're feeling down, right, you need a hype up song, you need to be pumped up. The kind of music you pick can actually get you there, can actually kind of help you to regulate those emotions. So studies have shown that calm music reduces anxiety. Do I need to take the pens? Okay. Calm music can reduce anxiety. Upbeat music can increase your energy, all right? Now here's one I always find interesting. If you're looking to be comforted, right, you just need some familiarity, maybe you're in a new place, you can use familiar music, right, to kind of get you back into that mindset. If you are studying, again, studies do show instrumental, lo-fi music, that is generally the best pick. All right, I know you guys like your hard rock, maybe your alternative rock, but you need something that's in the background, that's not with lyrics, because that can actually cause a distraction, right? You're not processing the music or the studies session very well. All right, and then as you guys have noted, music for relaxation and reflection, that can also help you to calm down, all right? Now, when we're talking about mental health for art, you guys have already nailed some of this. Just a couple of different techniques I've also read about. Drawing, painting. If you're struggling with your emotions, drawing it and doing this technique, name it to tame it, can help you tackle anger, sadness, right, envy. You can use some of those techniques to tackle those negative emotions. If you feel like you're trying to do too much, right, you have a lot to do on your plate, drawing and doodling is a good way to get some of that thought onto a paper, right? So this is what we call that externalizing your thoughts, getting it outside of your head and putting it on something outside of yourself. Let's see. Visual journaling. I don't know if any of you do this. I also visual journal. But it's a way to also organize your thoughts, help you to really just kind of see what is bothering me. Let me put it. I also use this reframing technique. If you've ever been in a stressful situation, something that psychologists recommend, again, if you like to draw or you like to journal, you draw the stressful situation and then you reinterpret it, okay? Or you redraw it with the positive light. You put it in a positive spin. So it kind of, again, helps you to process that emotion. So you're not dwelling on the negative aspect. You can use symbols if you're good at that type of thing. If you are someone who likes to focus on the details of art, they've also recommended, research has shown that focusing on separate aspects of the art can also help you to recenter. So if you're looking at textures, you focus on the colors. It's also like a sensory practice. If you are feeling overwhelmed, this is also something we suggest to our patients who are dealing with like depression and anxiety. To center yourself, you can focus on the blue items in the room. Focus on the sounds that you hear. If someone's having an anxiety attack, a panic attack, that is actually a technique. We teach them to cope with it, right? Rather than trying to internalize, we say focus on something outside of yourself. So again, just little techniques you can use to kind of help with your mental health. All right, so I have less than 10 minutes to go over careers, and I'm just gonna kind of move a little bit fast here. So how many of you have heard of psychology? Heard of it before me? Okay, did you realize we had like 20 plus subfields? Yeah. So there is essentially a subfield for everybody. If you like sports, there's sports psychology. If you like business, there's business psychology. I have students who have gone into engineering psychology, and they are designing the rides that you ride at Disney and Universal. All right? So psychology is in every aspect of your life. And so that's to say, it's not just the mental health aspect, right? If you're interested in just understanding people, understanding how people think, psychology could definitely be a career field for you. Like I said, my focus tends to be neuroscience, experimental, and cognitive. That's kind of my specialty. But there's literally something for everybody. If you want to work with kids, you want to work with animals, we have animal psychologists, right? A lot of behaviorists work at Discovery Cove. They work at Animal Kingdom. So you could train dolphins. But again, they have a psychological background. So lots of stuff for us to do in this subfield. All right, I'm not going to go over this. I'm sure they're going to make the slides present. One thing I do want to focus on is just actual careers you might be interested in. And these aren't careers or jobs that you need a doctorate for, right? So that's the cool thing about psychology, is that people want to hire psychologists even if they have a bachelor's, okay? Because you just have those 4 years of college. But doing psychology classes is really beneficial because it shows you understand people, right? You understand how people think, and that kind of puts you above many others. So again, counselor, therapist, usually what we're known for, okay? Mental health type of situations. But I wanted to just go over some other areas where psychologists are. As I mentioned, you can be a researcher or a scientist, right? Many of our theme parks employ psychology students. And then even if you go beyond and you are doing research, you can actually work for NASA, you can work for the Army. So they are employing them because, again, of their understanding of the human mind. And a lot of places like NASA, the Army, they use psychologists to understand how humans interact with machines, right? I've lost the mile, I know. Okay, I've lost this. Is it gone? Okay, hopefully you can hear me. I'm a professor, so I project pretty well. But what's nice is that you guys have probably heard of AI. Yes, okay, thank you. So, artificial intelligence is on the rise. Guess who helped design it? Cognitive psychologists. All right? Because we want the robots and the AI to think like us. So again, that's a great way for it to be used in the real world. All right. You can be a consumer analyst, a market research analyst. If you've ever gone somewhere, Publix even, and you see someone taking a survey or asking about your experience, probably psychology training. All right? Probably psychology training. So we're literally everywhere. I have friends who are behavioral specialists, right? They work in OCPS. So if you know of Orange County Public Schools, if you go to an Orange Public County school, you have counselors, you have people who help kids who need behavior plans. That is a psychologist. As I mentioned, I am a professor, so I work at Valencia. I also worked at UCF, but our other neighboring schools, Rollins, Full Sail, they love psychology as well. You can take a class or even end up working there. If you're interested in social work, I just listed some of the programs that I have worked with personally because I am very, very passionate about doing community engagement. All right, so programs like Camelot Community Care, Children's Home Society, Foundation for Foster Care, where you're working with foster families or kids in need, they are always looking for, again, students or anybody who maybe has a little bit of psychology background to help them, even if it's just on a volunteer basis. All right. This one has a special place in my heart, Guardium ad litem. All right, so if you guys remember, I started this by saying I wanted to be a lawyer. Remember that? So guardian ad litem was one career that I strongly considered because it was a way for me to blend psychology and political science. And what guardian ad litems do is they help kids who are in the legal system but need representation of their own. Right? So they work with these kids because, maybe their parents are fighting for them. I don't know the case. But they work in the legal system and they represent these kids in need. What's really nice about it is you definitely need that psychology background. But then again, having a political science background, as I did, it's also a good way to kind of be involved with the legal system. So like I said, there's a lot of different options. I thought I listed on here. There we go. Orlando Science Center. This is another organization I do a lot of collaborations with. They're always looking for psychologists, right? And so they've even hired students straight from Valencia who are working on their 2-year degree because they love for those students to do demos, right? Kind of like what I did today. They also work with the guest services representation unit. So they can work in guest services, again, because they have that human interaction. They know how people think. All right, so lots of opportunities, lots of areas for you to get involved in. All right, so this I think I'm supposed to give as a survey. I don't know if anybody wants to explain it, but I do want to leave time for a question or two. And then I was going to pass out brains as a gift for everybody, so everybody could get some. All right, so do we want them to scan the survey? Okay, so if you guys could scan the survey, let us know, let me know how we did. I always appreciate the feedback, ways to improve. All right, but overall, thank you guys for having me. You've been a wonderful audience. I appreciate your engagement. Thank you again.